Hello students, this is Anshu Batra, teacher to English from KV number 1, Itanagar. And today I am there with you to discuss about a beautiful poetry of Robert Frost, The Road Not Taken. So, before we start the poetry, let's discuss about the poet. Robert Frost was born on March 26, 1874. And he died on January 29, 1963. Robert Frost was an American poet who was known for his realistic depictions of rural life. He frequently wrote about settings from rural life in New England in the early 20th century, using them to explain complex and philosophical themes. His famous poems were A Boy's Will, The Road Not Taken, Fire and Ice, A Patch of Old Snow, etc. Robert Frost was the poet of 20th century who was an ocean of knowledge. He was also awarded 4 Pulitzer Prizes. Now, before the explanation, let's recite the poem. 2 roads diverged in a yellow wood, and sorry, I could not travel both. And be one traveler, long I stood, and looked down one as far as I could, to where it bent in the undergrowth. Then took the other just as fair, and having perhaps the better claim, because it was grassy and wanted wear, though as for that the passing there had worn them really about the same. And both that morning equally lay in leaves no step had trodden black. Oh, I kept the first for another day, yet knowing how way leads on to way, I doubted if I should ever come back. I shall be telling this with a sigh, somewhere ages and ages hence. 2 roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference. Now, dear students, let's see the gist or central idea of the poem. The poem comprises uncertainty and perplexing situation of the minds of people about what they may face when standing on the verge of making choices. It is because life is full of choices, and the choices we make define the whole course of our lives. Similarly, the narrator faces a situation during his travel. He thinks he may come back one day to travel on the other road. However, he also has a feeling that his choice will confront him with new adventures and challenges. Though there is some regret over his choice, yet he realizes that the things he has encountered and the places he has visited because of this path have made all the difference in his life. Dear students, this well-known poem is about making choices and the choices that shape us. The path which we have chosen decides our future and our destination. Now, let's see the first stanza of the poem. Two roads diverged in a yellow wood, and sorry, I could not travel both. And be one traveler, long I stood, and looked down one as far as I could, to where it bent in the undergrowth. Dear students, when we read the first line, that is, two roads diverged in a yellow wood by two roads, we immediately know the speaker is faced with a choice where two roads are telling about the journey of his life and his choice which he has faced in the journey of life. Here, diverged means extend in different directions, and in a yellow wood means here yellow indicates autumn season. The idea behind using autumn is that the year is coming to an end, a time for reflection. As we see the second line, which is, and sorry, I could not travel both. In this line, the speaker regrets that he cannot travel on both roads. Why? He cannot travel on both roads because he is a single traveler who cannot at the same time go to both the roads, and he cannot divide himself into two. And be one traveler, long I stood. Here, long I stood means he stayed at that spot for a very long time. Why? Because now he was confused which road he should choose. He was thinking that. And because of this confusion, he was standing in front of the fork-shaped road. That means the road which was divided into two parts. And he was thinking and he was trying to decide that which road he should choose. Fourth line, and looked down one as far as I could, means he was looking down over a single road as far as he could see. See, he cannot see the end of the road, right? If you are standing in one side of the road and if you try to see the end of the road, it's not possible, right? But the poet was trying to see the last end of the road. Fifth line, to where it bent in the undergrowth. What was the poet trying to see? That where the road ends. He took the time to look down one road till he could see no further. It bent away due to a curve in the road. So, dear students, here the poet is confused because right now in front of him he is having two choices into the form of two fork-shaped roads. Fork-shaped roads means which are divided into two parts, right? Now, let's see the second stanza. Then took the other, just as fair, and having perhaps the better claim, because it was grassy and wanted wear. Though, as for that, the passing there had warned them really about the same. In this stanza, let's see the first line. Then took the other as just as fair. Here, what does the poet want to say by then took the other? He means to say, surprisingly, after spending a lot of time looking down one path, the speaker takes the other. See, speaker has given time to one road. He thought about the road. Then after, he looked to the second road. Here, the poet is found to be deciding that which road he should choose. And you remember, dear children, that if we are having options in our life, we give time a bit to think that we should choose which option first, right? And here he writes, as just as fair. What does he mean? He means that both paths look as fair or beautiful as each other. It means when he looks both the roads, he finds or he is unable to find any difference between the two roads. In second line, he says, and having perhaps the better claim. However, here he wants to say the path he has chosen has the better claim and informal right to him traveling on it. Right? It means the poet will first be confident, no? If he has made any choice in his life, he should be confident about it. And if we will just believe that the choice which we have made is right, then only we can do something in our life. In eighth line he says, because it was grassy and wanted wear. Here he wants to say that it was more grassed over, and it was clear that very few people had taken that particular path. Here wanted wear which is written, that means less people have travelled over that road. Dear students, you might have seen that if any place is there or any road is there where people have not trodden or not walked, grass is grown over there, right? And if there is a path where many people go, many people walk over it, then you see that that road becomes clear and it is clean. It is not having grass over it. Why? Because many steps have destroyed the grass by walking over that path. In ninth and 10th lines, the poet writes, though as for that the passing there had warned them really about the same. Here, there refers to the point at the fork in the road, where many others would have stood and thought about which path to choose. This particular point would be worn down as many people would have spent time there wondering which path to decide on. Dear students, the speaker felt adventurous. He was displaying independence and individualism, as he did not want to follow everyone else. He wants to do something different. He did not want to conform. Instead, he displayed freedom of choice. He wants to choose that road which many people have not walked on. Now, let's move to the third stanza of the poem. In the third stanza, it is written, and both that morning equally lay in leaves, no step had trodden black. Oh, I kept the first for another day, yet knowing how way leads on to way, I doubted if I should ever come back. Dear students, in third stanza, The first line, which is actually the 11th line of the poem, reads, "And both that morning equally lay." Here, that morning, the paths looked the same. Why? See the 12th line? In leaves, no step had trodden black. Means nobody has walked on these paths this morning. The leaves are still their natural colors, not blackened. Right? If we see the 13th line, oh, I kept the first for another day. Here, in this line, what does the poet wants to tell? The poet's intention is to return so that he can travel along the other paths some other day in the future. Is this realistic? Do you think the poet will come again in some other day to visit this other road? I think no. The exclamation mark emphasizes the poet's regret because the poet also knows that it is not possible for him to come back again. If we see the 14th line, yet knowing how way leads on to way. Here, the speaker knows that often one path or road leads to another and another as we move forward. Therefore, he says in 15th line, I doubted if I should ever come back. What he says? He doubts that he will ever come back to this particular spot on his journey. This is a doubtful thing for the poet. See, students, when we move to one road, we walk, and just after what happens? That road on which we were walking, that road is joined with the other road. And then that road is joined with the other road. In this way, what happens? One road leads to the other leads to the next. It means we have gone so far. Then you only tell, is it possible for us to come back to this previous road? For the same thing, the poet regrets, right? So, in these lines, the literal meaning means the exact meanings of the words which are written is that roads are the actual roads. And what is the figurative meaning, which the hidden meaning is? That on the journey of life, we are unable to go back to the past. Right? This is the figurative meaning, hidden meaning in this stanza. Now let's see the fourth stanza. I shall be telling this with a sigh. Somewhere ages and ages hence, two roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less travelled by, and that has made all the difference. Dear students, in fourth stanza, when we read the starting line, which is the 16th line of the poem, I shall be telling this with a sigh. Here poets say this, no? Here the poet will tell this story with a sigh of regret. Sigh means taking deep breath. Means he was regretful, no? That he would not be able to come back again in this road. He says that he would be telling about this road, taking a deep breath of regret. He would have loved to have travelled along the other path to see where it would take him and how it could have influenced his life. Right? The poet wishes to go to other road also, but you know very well it's not possible for him. But he is very sorry for that he is not able to travel to that road. Right? In 17th line he says, somewhere ages and ages hence. What it is? The story will be told many years hence, means from this time when right now the poet is standing in front of the fork-shaped diverged road, no? So he thinks that he would be telling the story about the roads in the future. The speaker is imagining looking back on this moment. Now, in the second part, where written ages and ages hence, means in the same line, it is written no, ages and ages hence. Here, the colon sign is made. So, the colon indicates that the story is about to follow, means the story will be continued. Now, in 18th line, what he writes? Two roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less traveled by. Here the poet says, here is a situation. Two roads are diverged, right? And the action which the poet will perform is what? The poet took the one less traveled by. Here, which road poet has chosen? Which many people are not walking on, right? He has made a different choice. Here, note, repetition of I conveys his firm intention, means he has made his decision that he will go to the road where most of the people have not gone. It emphasizes that this is his individual or personal decision, not influenced by the group. See, usually what happens? People follow that things only which most of the people are doing. What they think? Hey, these people are doing this. Many people are doing this, so I should also do this. Maybe this is correct. That's why people are doing. But the poet has tried to do something different in his life. Okay. Now, in last lines, what he writes? In the last line of this stanza, and that has made all the difference. Here, what does the poet say? The speaker or the poet does not regret his choice, as that choice has made all the difference in his life. Right? Here, he means happy that at least he is following the decision what he has himself made. So now if good will happen, it will be his responsibility. And if suppose by bad luck, if something bad happens, that is also because of his decision. Means he cannot blame any other person, right? He is happy with his decision. And he knows that because of his decision only, his life would be changed in near future. Whatever will happen, it will be happening because of his decision only. So here, according to words if we'll go, the literal meaning of these lines are what? The speaker took the path which is less used. Less people have gone here. And what is the figurative meaning which the poet wants to tell us is the speaker or the poet refers to making the unpopular choices in life. Means we should try to do something different in our life, right? And we should be confident about our choice. We should never be regretful. We should not be afraid that what will happen in future. Just leave it on the future itself. Leave it on the God. Dear students, the poet tells he had only one life and he would like to lead a different one. Right? He wanted to do something different. He did not want to do what all the people are doing, what the crowd is doing. Right? Gradually, he gained confidence in his choice. And you have seen that at the end of the poem, he urged and encouraged that people should try something new instead of following others. Right? Don't copy others. Just do something new, something innovating, something different. This is the message of the poet. Now, dear students, let's discuss about the tone and mood of the poem. Here, in this slide, I have presented the tone and mood of the poem. The tone used and mood created is reflective and nostalgic. The tone is reflective. Here, by his own decision, the poet is reflecting a confident behavior and he wants that others should also follow it. And the mood is nostalgic. Nostalgic is what? He is having mixed feelings. Like for today, he is happy, but he is at the same time also longing for familiar things, usually from the past. The poet is reflecting on or thinking about the decision he had to make and is nostalgic for the path he was unable to take. Relates to having to make decisions and looking back on the consequences of those decisions. Consequences means results of the decisions which are made by the poet. So, dear students, this was the explanation of the poem. Now, let's see the technical part of this poem. Poetic devices which are present in your poem. As you know very well, dear students, that poetic devices are the kinds of literary devices that are used in poetry. A poem is created out of poetic devices composite of structural, grammatical, rhythmic, metrical, verbal, and visual elements. They are essentially tools that a poet uses to create rhythm, enhance a poem's meaning, or intensify a mood or feelings. Dear students, the very first poetic device in this poem is metaphor, which is giving the symbolic meaning to the literal terms. It directly refers to one thing by mentioning the other. Metaphor identifies hidden similarities between two ideas. Metaphors used in this poem emphasize the importance of different decisions we make in different situations and their impacts in our lives. Let's see the examples of metaphor in the poem. But before that, I want to tell you that this poem is an extended metaphor, which means that the comparison is not done within a line or word. The comparison is done throughout the poem. It means the full poem, the complete poem is having metaphor. The road is the metaphor for the journey of life. And the fork, that means the road which was divided into two parts, no? That is the fork on the road metaphorically represents the choices we make to determine the course of our lives. Here, students, yellow woods are used. Yellow woods are the metaphor for autumn season, as the poem is set in autumn season. The second poetic device in this poem is imagery. What is imagery? Imagery creates mental picture in reader's mind. It enables the reader to feel things through their five senses. If we see the example from this poem, in this poem, the poet has used the images of the sense of sights such as leaves, yellow woods. What it means? That when we read about the leaves and yellow woods, our which senses start just imagining? That are eyes or the sight senses. We just think that the leaves and the yellow woods are in front of us. Yellow color just comes in front of our eyes. That means image is there of leaves and yellow woods in front of our eyes. Right? The image of the road helps readers to visualize the road, providing a navigation route to the traveler. Now, the third poetic device is simile. It is what? It makes a comparison showing similarities between two persons or things. It uses like or as to compare. Means wherever like or as comes, no. In the line where comparison is done, you should understand that there is simile. If we see the example from the poem, in second stanza, as just as fair, that is written. That is the example of simile. Now, let's move to the next poetic devices present in this poem. The fourth poetic device is assonance. And what is assonance, students? It is the repetition of vowel sound. And that sound can be repeated any place. In the starting also, in middle also, and at the end also. Like in this poem, the lines you have seen. And be one traveler, where it bent. These lines are there. So here, and traveler, you can see a sound is repeated. The sound of a is repeated. In where and bent, e sound is repeated. Now the fifth poetic device is consonance. What is consonance? It is the repetition of consonant sounds. Right? As we see the lines, the two roads diverging in a yellow woods. Here, D sound is and when we see the lines, though as for that, the passing there. Here, the red letters you can see. Here, which sound is repeated? T sound is repeated, which is a consonant sound. Now, sixth poetic device is repetition. And repetition is what? When one word is repeated more than one time. As you can see in the phrase, ages and ages. Here, ages word is repeated 2 times. Okay. Now, the next poetic device, that is the seventh poetic device, is personification. And dear students, what is personification? Personification is a figure of speech in which a thing, that means an idea or an animal, is given human attributes or qualities. The non-human objects are portrayed in such a way that we feel that they have the ability to act like human beings. If we see the example from the poem, it personified road in the third line of the second stanza. Here it is stated, because it was grassy and wanted wear, as if the road is human and that it wants to wear and tear. Here, wear and tear normally means the normal damage from being used over time, right? If we have used something for too many times, it gets damaged, no. So that means wear and tear. Now, eighth figure of speech, that is poetic device, here is anaphora. What it means? When two or more lines begin with the same word, right? You can see the example. And sorry, I could not travel both, and be only one traveler long I stood, and looked down one as far as I could. Here you can see the first line, the second line, and the third line. All the 3 lines are beginning with and, right? That's why here anaphora is there. And if we see the ninth poetic device, that is enjambment. And enjambment means what? When 2 or more sentences continue without comma, full stop, and semicolons. Right, let's see the example. The same lines I have taken. And sorry, I could not travel both. And be one traveler, long I stood, and looked down one as far as I could. Here, if you see the last words of all the three lines, that are both, stood, and could. Here, after both, there is no sign. After stood also, there is no sign of comma, full stop, colon sign. Even after could also, there is no sign. That's why here enjambment is there. So dear students, that's all. Hope you understood everything. And if you liked this video, please like and subscribe my channel. Thank you and have a wonderful day ahead.